ahead and remove the center cap. There's a little notch in here. You want to go ahead and just pop a screwdriver on in there and gently pry that out. Remove your center cap, set that aside. Using a 19mm socket, we want to go ahead and remove the lug nuts. With the lug nuts now removed, we want to go ahead and remove the wheel and tire. I want to go ahead and remove your bolt from here. Our particular piece of hardware is missing, so if yours is there, remove that one there. Over here, we have two 10mm bolts. We're going to go ahead and remove these. I'm going to remove this one 10mm bolt right here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this bolt right here. There would normally be a 10mm bolt right here, but we had to replace it. And there's a 10mm bolt right here. We're going to zip that off. With that off, we should be able to drop this whole trim piece right down and remove it from the vehicle. I'm going to remove the cap on our expansion tank. And set that aside. Now up under the driver's side front of the vehicle, we're going to go ahead and drain the radiator. We're going to do so by opening up the petcock drain here. Have a drain bucket underneath to go ahead and catch your coolant. All right, we have most of the coolant drained out. We're going to go ahead and snug up the plug right here. Now on the water pump pulley here, there are three 10mm bolts. We want to go ahead and loosen these. So we're going to go ahead and put our wrench on there. We're going to use a screwdriver here, and we're going to use it to lock these two bolts here and loosen this. I want to loosen these three bolts now, make it easier for us later on. Okay, so we have these three loose. Using a 15mm socket, an extension, and a bar, a breaker bar, we're going to go ahead and put it on the tensioner pulley. And we're going to pull on that clockwise. That's going to allow us to remove our drive belt here. Just work that off. And go ahead and loosen that back down. I'm just going to go ahead and push our belt up out of the way. And now we can hold that pulley and remove those three 10mm bolts. And once they get loose, you should be able to spin them out by hand. And once you get the bolts out, just pull the pulley out. Now the water pump has three 8mm bolts holding it in place. There is one right here, there's one right over here, And then there's one up on the back here you're going to have to reach up and get to. I'm going to go ahead and use a deep 8mm socket, 1/4 inch drive. I'm going to go ahead and loosen those bolts. When you're doing this job, you want to go ahead and make sure you have a catch can underneath. Any residual coolant that might be in the engine will probably leak out when you're doing this job. So you want something to catch that. I'm going to spin out the upper bolt completely. There's one of them right here. Go ahead and spin this one out here on the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unthread this third bolt here. I'm not going to remove it yet. I'm going to leave some threads in there, and I'm going to go ahead and tap this flange here with a mallet or a hammer just to try and break it free from the engine itself. I'm going to go ahead and remove that last third bolt right here. And we'll set that aside. When you use a screwdriver and just gently get up between the water pump and the timing cover, we're just going to apply a little bit of wiggling pressure back and forth while we're pulling that water pump out. There is a rubber O-ring sealing this unit to the block. So let's go ahead and work this back and forth. And we have it loose. We're going to now transition to a pry bar and get under this tab right here. Try and walk this out. Just rocking back and forth, pulling on the top. Have some coolant dripping there, so just have your catch can underneath. Just going to get up there and open that up a little bit more. We're just going to let that drain out. That's just residual that's sitting in the motor there. I'm just going to work this out a little bit. Rock that. And when the water pump comes out, it should have the O-ring on there. I'm going to go ahead and install the O-ring seal. Just going to get it into that groove, work its way around, and it'll pop right in like so. I'm going to go ahead and install our water pump. Let's feed that up. And we did clean the surface of where these will be bolted up to on the engine. Just line this up. It'll pop right in. Let's go ahead and get our bolt started. I'm going to get all three started by hand, and then we'll go ahead and snug those down. with all three of those bolts in there, we're just going to go ahead and snug those into place. I'm going to go ahead and torque these to 7.4 foot-pounds. And go ahead and install our pulley on the water pump. Going to line that up and just want to get one bolt started here. I'm going to thread that in as far as I can. And we'll spin that and we'll get the next one in. And we'll repeat for the third one. Using our 10mm ratchet wrench here, we're going to go ahead and just snug these down for now. I'm going to go ahead and torque the pulley bolts to 18 foot-pounds. We need to use a combination of the screwdriver, it's not working so well. Now we can go ahead and get our belt lined up. I'm going to go ahead and bring that tensioner up, get our pulley popped on, or our belt onto the pulley. making sure that the belt is in all of the grooves of all the components we need it to be in. And then we can release that tensioner. Go ahead and line up our under engine cover here. We'll go ahead and get our 10mm bolt started. Now we're just going to crank those in a few threads by hand. We're not going to tighten them down yet until we get the lower bolts installed. And go ahead and install our bolt on the side right over here. Put this one in here. Let's go ahead and tighten this one down. And we'll go ahead and snug these two down. Go ahead and install your wheel. I'm going to go ahead and get our lug nuts all started by hand, and then we'll snug those down. I'm going to go ahead and torque the wheel lug nuts down to 98 foot-pounds. Now, if you have a center cap, you want to go ahead and make sure that your lug nuts line up with these ports right here. Snap that on. Let's go ahead and get a funnel in there. Now on the tank itself it says fill cold. Now you're just going to go ahead and top off the system with whatever the recommended coolant is for your vehicle. So fill this to cold. Go ahead and start the vehicle, check for any leaks, and at that point there you should be good to go. Once this is filled up, you want to go ahead and put your cap back on, seal it up. You want to set up the vehicle, let it warm up to operating temperature. You never want to open up this cap once the vehicle has gotten up to operating temperature. You want to make sure that the temperature of the vehicle is cool before you open this up. This is a pressurized system.